the main point is this, is how they would look at it in the West, right? They look at this as like, as he said, canceling someone, totally, deleting someone off social media because he mentioned a word. Okay, he did it in a racist way. If he did it in a racist way, we agree that's wrong. So it's you shouldn't be doing it in that way. But we're talking about the comparison now of what the West places as a priority of what do and do not do in comparison to things which are not on the same level, but they would make a whole big problem out of it, right? So that's what I'm saying. In the West, when you think about these things, it becomes very ridiculous, okay? Saying a word in the end, it's a word. It's a word, right? If I say that word, does it harm you directly by losing an arm, a leg, or something like that? It doesn't.
No.
But letting your daughter being used as a toy, or used and abused, in the streets, as a toy and barely wearing any clothes, and then coming to you with a baby that she doesn't know who the father is, and he ends up in the roads becoming a criminal,
Look at his laugh, bro. Well, how many times got a psycho laugh, bro? Why does he laugh like a serial killer?
He's a halal one, This is him normally, you just don't know. So, yeah. So,
you guys don't have to share. Do we have 4 plates?
Yeah, you can eat each other.
How did we get here?
Yeah, you're asking about growing up in an Islamic environment. I was talking about the difference between the Islamic environment and the Western environment. And these are some of the examples of the difference that are growing in an Islamic environment. The things which are important, people are careful of doing. People are more God conscious. People would listen to your advice if you give them advice. People fear God. There is God consciousness. This is the difference. This is literally the difference between the West and these Muslim countries. Is there is God consciousness. You're fearing God. You know there's consequences to the actions that you make. It's not as simple as, I'm doing whatever I want. I'm the God of my own self, right? So, and the West is become a mockery of the things that they would say. Like, let's bring another controversial example. I know his fan base, they like controversial things, which I mentioned to you before, probably. So the idea of engaging in intercourse with someone from a specific age, right? The age, look, you already knows there's differences, right? So I've mentioned. Okay, we'll mention this simple example. You've got different states. These different states, they have different ages that they disagree with one another. That they would literally label one another to be, you want to use pedophile, all of these terminology. The West would label other countries to be pedophile that they have. You look at the age of consent. In some countries, 14, but the age of marriage is 16, 17, 18. Okay, so the girl can have intercourse at the age of 14, but she needs to be 8 to be married. Okay, so where is this idea coming from? Where is the rationality behind these teachings that you see, right? So yeah, just look at the West and what they look at as the biggest problematic things versus like very small things that they would look at. It's okay for you to do. In Islam, it would be the polar opposite. And if you're growing in a Muslim community, it would be like this. Like, in an Islamic community, a very good example. Imagine you living in a Muslim country and you're on the bus and a man kisses a woman in the bus. Have you seen this in Egypt? Have you seen it?
No, but I've seen taharrush there.
Let's bring it all together. So,
what is that? I don't know what that is.
No, you can't call. Yeah. Okay.
What?
Okay. No, but that.
You should ask me, bro.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you next time. I'm gonna ask one of you brothers. Okay. So, subhanallah. Yeah. So the thing is this: if they do this in the bus, people will look at them. There's an element of culture shaming, you can say. People will look at them in a different way. People will speak to them. Why you're doing this? Even if she's his wife. There's a level of public decency. And subhanAllah, some countries, I would say, even some non-Muslim countries, but very few like Japan, you'd find they have a lot of similar teachings to that. There's public decency when you are outside, raising your voice, throwing things in the road, these specific things, you have more public decency. But in comparison, if you look at those, it's a complete, just not, kissing is like a very small thing, if you want to say, what they would be doing in public places, So yeah, it's a huge difference if you grow up in a Muslim environment than if you grow up in a...
Have you seen the carnival in London, London Carnival?
No.
Bro,
the worst thing I've seen in this country is when I was, because where we do da'wah, you've got the pride parade. You've got the pride parade. and I'm saying this with no, I'm not even joking. I felt that the earth will open and swallow the people. Because, wallah, I'm speaking seriously of the amount of how the people are dressed, what the people are doing to their bodies. Like the guy is making 2 horns and barely wearing any clothes, and there is like these metal things all over it. I'm like, what's going on, man? The cow that has less metal things than what this person has on himself. And like honestly,
You talking about the face piercings? What are you talking about?
It's a whole body piercing. The guy was a walking piercing. Wallahi, and he had 2 horns. His hair, he made his hair like 2 horns,
Right.
red, and the guy's he was wearing something which is barely covering his body part, and his whole body is piercings.
Thank you, bro.
Some of the sites I've seen is. I'm never going to forget them, basically.
Are you also one of those people like the West is falling, the West is crumbling, it's satanic? You also believe that?
In what sense? In a moral sense, the West has always been quite decadent, in my opinion. I don't think there's ever been. I mean, obviously there was a time where the Christian tradition was, stronger in the West. Like if you look demographically, the turning point really was in the 19th.
The sexual revolution.
Yeah. But it's not just the sexual revolution. There were so many things that happened. The rise of feminism, the sexual revolution. Most sociologists, and I've done a small piece on this for the sake of this, I tried to track the time where people became less religious. And I tried to find out what the reason was. And what do sociologists say about this? And the 1960s seemed to be the main point in the whole of the West, Western Europe and America, for 2 main reasons. Number one, liberalism effectively substituted Christianity as the dominant ethic, as the dominant morality. And number 2, parenting. So sociologically, parents wouldn't teach their children this is right and this is wrong. What they would now teach their children is, you go and decide whatever you think is right and wrong. So this laissez-faire attitude to morality. And as a result, this laissez-faire attitude to morality would become the new morality. So like, people would be like, well, we don't need to know, let anyone can do whatever they want, and it became laissez-faire. Morality became reshaped after, I think, the 60s and 70s in the West, generally speaking. And in that sense, I mean, there's a very powerful quotation by Arthur Schopenhauer, who's a pessimist. He was like a philosopher pessimist.
He was an atheist, right?
Atheist. And he said that humanity oscillates between extreme fear and extreme boredom. Fear, I'm thinking that he means by fear because you're either in a state of war or in a state of peace. When you're in a state of war, you're scared because you're scared for your life. You're in survival mode. And when you're in that state of fear, you don't have time to be bored. That's a general psychological principle. If you're in a state of fear and survival, you don't have time to be bored. But if you're no longer in that state of fear, then what happens is you start to become bored. And when you become bored, what do? You
become depressed.
You become depressed, but then you also have 1,000 genders now. Because you have to
invent problems.
Yeah, you invent new problems. You invent new realities. You create something. You need a new challenge for yourself.
Right.
And so I think what we're seeing now is a result of the substitution of morality from Christianity to liberalism, new parenting methods which basically gave the child rather than for the parent to take control of themselves. And then you have this issue of boredom. We're living in the age of boredom, social media, people are bored, they don't know what to do, so they're inventing new ideologies, new genders, new this, new that, and it is causing the West to decline at a more rapid rate. I mean, it's declining in every single way now. Economically, it is declining militarily, comparative to its competitors. Look at China, what it's doing. But now it's self-inflicted. Because the West, what they're doing now is they're doing it to themselves. If you don't have the warrior instinct, if you don't have a will to be strong, a will to be right and to be wrong, and these kinds of very solid things, you're going to be overtaken by people that do want to have these things. And that's why I think that the West is...
Is that why Muslims are conquering London right now? They're conquering this place. They're stomping over it. I mean, a couple of years ago when it was COVID lockdown, it was all a bunch of like the genderless people walking around. But you can look around here now, it looks like Afghanistan. Warner, what do you say? Londonistan?
Londonistan.
Londonistan. This place is just it's like 1 in 3 people must be Muslim. I'm seeing so many thobes and hijabis walking around.
In London, probably about 1 in 5. It's probably about 20%. Let's say 18, 19%.
And a population of what, 10 million?
10 million. So we've got maybe about 1.5 million Muslims here in London. But in Birmingham, it's probably 1 in 3 now.
1 in 3?
Yeah, and in Bradford, it's almost 1 in 2. It's 1 in 2. It's almost half.
The reason I ask that is because like I hear that rhetoric a lot from Muslims. Like you bring that up, but you guys still live here, and there's a growing Muslim population. Like why do you remain here?
صنعتم في الأرض نورا يا قلوبا فيها الوفاء بشركم اليوم السرور